And there you have it, Dave Tippett announced as the 16th head coach in Oilers franchise history. I'm Tony Brar, Jack Michaels, as we are pleased to be joined by Oilers general manager and president of hockey operations, Ken Holland. Ken, thanks for your time.
Thanks, nice to be with you.
Ken, you were hired 3 weeks ago to the date on May 7th. The number one word that you used in your press conference was stability. Now, I think the number one word used today in Dave Tippett's press conference was structure. How will Dave Tippett bring that to the Edmonton Oilers?
Well, I think the experience of being behind an NHL bench, I think he said he's coached 15 years behind a bench, so obviously he's got a process that starts day one at training camp, or probably in July and August as he's building his staff and going about the business of building a team that plays with structure. I think accountability is a big part of structure. When you set, the coach sets the parameters, and when they step outside the parameters, then you have to be held accountable. And he's obviously, I believe, that he's got real good communication skills. I talked to some players that played in his teams in Houston and in the National Hockey League, and they said that he was able to build relationships with his players. So I think those are important ingredients.
Ken, at your introductory press conference, you talked about the value of experience in one of the reasons you were hired.
Yes.
And in retrospect, should that have been as a bit of a clue that you were leaning in that direction for this hire, your first major one?
No, I mean, I'm big on experience, and I think that what is experience? Experience means you've been there, you've done that, you've made some decisions that have turned out or haven't turned out, whether you're a player or you're a coach or you're a general manager, and you can reflect back on that. And I think that where we are today, we've got a real good young base of players. We've obviously got to build around it. I think it was important. I thought it was important to have somebody behind the bench that had been there before. I had lots of conversations with Ken Hitchcock as we went through this search and this process. And Ken Hitchcock believed a lot of the things that I did, and I'm excited today to announce Dave Tippett as the next head coach of the Oilers. I think he's got experience, but he's hungry. He's been out of the game for a couple of years. He's fresh. He was in the World Cup. He did coach part of the team that coached those young stars. So I think it's a great time for Dave in his career.
Ken, 14 seasons behind the bench, 553 wins as an NHL head coach, a former Jack Adams Award winner. The list goes on with Dave Tippett. Now, in your conversations with him, you talked about the young nucleus you have here with the Oilers, spearheaded by McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So how does his style fit into that mold?
Well, we obviously talked about that. We both like the team to play fast. You got to in the world that the game today, you got to play with speed. You got to compete. You got to compete when you've got the puck. You got to be heavy on the puck down low, and when you don't have the puck, you've got to compete hard. I think about the Detroit Red Wings teams that won the Cup in '97 and '98. People think about the offense, but at the end of the day, you got to win some games 2-1, and you got to win 1-0, and some nights you got to win 5-4. So you got to be able to check, and I think that. In talking with Dave, like I said, we spent 4 or 5 hours together when I was in San Diego watching Bakersfield. We spent 4 or 5 hours together in Vancouver last week. We believe in the same things in building a hockey team, and got to have some pace, got to compete. You need some depth of scoring. The defense have got to join the rush, but you can't take chances. You can't just step up in the offensive zone and lead odd man rushes. So I think we believe in the same things. That's why we're here today, and I hired him as the head coach.
It's funny how quickly things can change. 5 or 6 weeks ago, I think you were on your way to the World Under-18s, and you said over there, I quickly recognized that I had the desire to do the job you're doing right now. Yeah. When you first talked to Dave, did you get that same feeling from him and recognize the same itch that you had realized you had, and that he wanted this challenge?
Yeah, very much so. He's excited to be back behind the bench. Coaching's his first love. He's enjoyed his time in Seattle, kind of helping build the foundation of Seattle, but ultimately he enjoys being behind the bench and the challenge of building a team, growing a team, making players better, and that certainly came out in our conversations. And like he said there, I know he's excited, like I am, to be involved with a Canadian team and a Canadian marketplace with a passionate fan base. So I know he's real excited about being back behind the bench again. I think that's important. He's got his batteries recharged and he's ready to rock and roll.
Jack talked about how quickly things can change. Now, in a conversation with Dave Tippett earlier, he talked about how when he was in Seattle, that you were one of the names on his list. Isn't it kind of funny how the roles have kind of reversed and you kind of sought him out this time around?
Yeah, it's funny how, without a doubt, it's funny how things go. So I'm excited. We're both excited about where we are at today. We're excited about the potential. We know that we've got a lot of work to do. We've talked about some ideas, and obviously I'm going to leave today. I'm going to go to the Combine, and I've talked to some general managers there. I'm going to start working the phones, and certainly the next 6 weeks are going to be critical in trying to make some decisions to build the team for the 1920 season. So we've got some big decisions to make. Certainly today for me to announce Dave Tippett as a coach, as the head coach, was a massive decision. I think as a general manager, that's probably your most important decision. I feel great about the decision. I feel great about the process. I feel great about working with Ken Hitchcock and going through the process over the last 3 weeks to come to today. Now that's tucked away. Dave can go to work on building his staff, and I can move on to the Combine, the draft, and work on the phones and see what we can do between now and mid-July in building a team.
Ken, you talked about how you feel great today. We're great that you joined us here and taking some time out on joining us on Oilers TV. Now we'll throw to a one-on-one interview with the man himself.